What up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And in this video, I got a very interesting list for you today. Now, there's lots of football fans out there, so this is going to be something that really appeals to you. To get into the National Football League Hall of Fame, you don't have to just be good, but you have to be great, at least in the eyes of your peers that vote for you to get into the Hall of Fame. But in this video, I'm going to focus on quarterbacks. And specifically, I'm going to focus on Hall of Fame quarterbacks. And more specifically, the 5 worst Hall of Fame quarterbacks. That's right, the 5 quarterbacks that are the worst in the National Football League Hall of Fame. Now, there's 26 quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame. I'm going to exclude guys from the 40s and 50s because they just played football differently in that era. So this is going to be exclusively for the Super Bowl era quarterbacks. Anyway, let's go. Number 5, Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly's best season was 33 touchdowns and 17 interceptions. He had a very respectable 237 touchdowns total throughout his career against 175 interceptions. Jim Kelly was a really good quarterback. He quarterbacked the Buffalo Bills for 11 seasons, running an offense that they called the K-Gun. And prior to coming there, he played for the USFL's Houston Gamblers for 2 seasons, totaling 83 touchdowns and 20 interceptions. But Jim Kelly could not win the big one, and that's why he's on this list. He had 4 Super Bowl game appearances and lost all 4 times. And before you say, well, hey, he did get to the big game, those games were not even close. These were the scores that Jim lost by. The first one was competitive versus the New York Giants, 20-19. The last 3 against the then Washington Redskins, now Commanders, 42-10, and then back-to-back losses to the Dallas Cowboys, 52-17 and 30-13. So Jim Kelly is number 5. Number 4, Brett Favre. Brett Favre also had Super Bowl appearances. He had 2 to be in fact. He had 1 win and 1 loss. He led the league in interceptions 3 times, and he was a turnover machine, and that is why Brett Favre is on this list. He had a little over 500 total touchdowns in his career, which spanned close to 20 years, which is really impressive, but he also had 336 interceptions. He struggled with his accuracy. He was not a very, I guess you would call it, patient quarterback. He often tried to fit things into windows that wouldn't fit, and that's why he had so many interceptions, and that's why he's on this list. Number 3, Kenny Stabler, the Snake. Now, Ken Stabler is a really interesting profile on this list. He played for the then Oakland Raiders, which then became the Los Angeles Raiders, and then the Oakland Raiders again, and now the Las Vegas Raiders. The first couple years in the league, he sat, which was not that uncommon in those days for a new quarterback to sit and watch and learn. He had 7 seasons of really stellar play as the Raiders starter, which included a Super Bowl win. But the last 5 seasons of his career, which were 2 years in Houston and 3 years in New Orleans, he totaled 44 touchdowns against 79 interceptions, flipping his career numbers to 194 touchdowns against 222 interceptions. And that's why Kenny Stabler is coming in at number 3. You just can't ignore the last 5 seasons of that career. Number 2, this will surprise a lot of people. Troy Aikman. Yes, the same Troy Aikman that quarterbacked the Dallas Cowboys for a little over a decade. The same Troy Aikman that had 3 Super Bowl wins and 6 Pro Bowls. But when you really break it down, his stats were rather pedestrian. Troy had, in 12 seasons, 165 touchdowns, which is like a little under 15 per year, against 141 interceptions. And on his offense, he had Michael Irvin, the playmaker, Alvin Harper, a noted speedster, the league's all-time leading rusher, and Emmitt Smith, Moose Johnston, the fullback that would knock someone's block off, and one of the original tight end security safety blankets in Jay Novacek, and those were the best numbers he could muster. He also had a perennial top 10 defense led by Leon Lett, Darren Woodson. He had Charles Haley, another Hall of Famer. He had Deion Sanders for a spell, another Hall of Famer. And you know, the people that blocked for Troy Aikman, that offensive line was so good that they called these guys the Great Wall of Dallas. Nate Newton, Mark Tuinei, Mark Stepnoski, Eric Williams, and Kevin Gogan. Let that sink in. They called them the Great Wall of Dallas. And with all of that talent around him, those were the best numbers that Troy Aikman could muster. I'm sorry, he has to be number 2, although he had a very successful career. Number 1. This was so easy. Joe Namath. Joe Namath basically got in the Hall of Fame for saying that his heavily underdog New York Jets would beat the big bad Baltimore Colts in Super Bowl III. And they did. And basically that's why he's in the Hall of Fame. Because if you look at his numbers, 50% career completion rate, 13 seasons in the NFL. Only one that he had more touchdowns than interceptions, and that was the Super Bowl year of 1969, where he only threw 2 more touchdowns than interceptions, 19 TDs to 17 interceptions. He had a total of 173 touchdowns against 220 interceptions. Awful. In 1976, he had 4 touchdowns against 16 interceptions. On top of everything else, he had a career losing record at 62 wins against 64 losses. This one wasn't hard at all. Joe Namath is the worst quarterback in the National Football League Hall of Fame. Well, that does it for this list. Let me know how you felt about it. Should I have left someone off that list? Should someone else have taken their place? I'd love to hear what you have to say about this topic. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And I will talk to you guys in the next video.